I want to welcome you to the next phase of my capstone project. Initially, this was going to be an in-person conversation with three ministers from Tamina about the subjects of racism and reconciliation. But once the pandemic took hold and forced people to stay indoors and to practice social distancing, it became impossible to carry on an in-depth conversation for such an important topic. Instead, I converted the conversation aspect of this project to two pre-recorded videos that discuss the topics. Now, racism is not an easy subject for anyone to discuss. We each have our own feelings on racism, and most of us feel that we're not racist in any way. However, many of us also do not fully understand racism because we've not been subjected to the horrors of it because of our whiteness. We also don't fully understand that racism is not just an individual thing, but a systemic thing. With every law that is passed that empowers people of color, there are hundreds more that are ignored and neglected. Some existing laws are still in effect from the time of segregation. Here in Houston, the old Braeswood Homeowners Association near Rice Village still has on its deed restrictions that a home within the community could not be owned or occupied by any person not of the white race. And although this rule could not legally hold up in court due to its violating the Federal Housing Act of 1968, Texas state law also makes it extremely difficult to remove the language from established HOA documentation. Now, in addition, our criminal justice system maintains unequal practices across racial lines, as seen in just the last few months with its handling of the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery while jogging in Georgia at the hands of vigilantes, and of George Floyd while being arrested in Minnesota by obvious police brutality tactics. The reality is this: we, the Woodlands Christian Church Disciples of Christ, are a predominantly white congregation. We identify with a predominantly white, affluent community while located just a mile away from some of the poorest people in Montgomery County. And they are predominantly people of color. The residents of Tammany are deserving of our attention, our time, our resources, and our help. My challenge to you during this phase of the project is to utilize the effective listening tools that you've learned during the sermon and classroom phases of the project to try and understand the context of the video speakers. The listening tools you will utilize include looking for body language, facial expressions, listening for phrases that are repeated, as well as other factors such as location, vocation, and advocation. These first two video segments discuss racism and white supremacy and privilege from a national perspective. And there are two links. One is from the Reverend Andrea Alexander, and the other is from the Reverend Seth Wispelwey. The links are provided below, but if you have trouble finding them, please email or text me and I will be happy to provide them that way. In addition, look for a new video next week where you'll actually hear recorded interviews with a couple of Tamina residents. I promise you will not want to miss that. And most importantly, remember to keep Christ at the center of your encounter.